Hey, but let's overreact to it, bud, because crushing an FCS opponent can also allow us to learn a little bit more about your team. And what Oregon did to Montana State was clinical. And now we get a step up in competition because this Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you can watch it on CBS. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. Big Time will feature the Oregon Ducks, the reigning Big Ten champs, welcoming in Oklahoma State. Now, we had already planned to go inside the matchup here today with our time in the Cover 3 podcast on CBS Sports Network, but then we got a little bit of spice. We got a little bit of sizzle because Mike Gundy, first on the radio show, discussed Oregon's spending. Then he was asked to follow up at a press conference, and he didn't totally double down as hard as he went the first time, but certainly was indicating that Oregon maybe just bought their way to this much talent and success. But it is the response from Oregon's Dan Lanning that I'd love to share with you right here.
Listening to him talk, like I said, I got a ton of respect for Coach Gundy. Ultimately, how blessed are we to be in a place that's invested in winning? If you want to be a top 10 team in college football, you better be invested in winning. And we spend to win. Some people save to have an excuse for why they don't, right? And ultimately, like, he's a great coach. They've done an unbelievable job, but I want to be a team that's competing at the highest level. And we're really fortunate to be in that situation. So I can't speak on their situation. I have no idea, what they got in their pockets over there. I'm sure UT Martin maybe didn't have as much as them last week, and they played. So we'll let it play out.
Thank you, Dan. I do appreciate that. But knowing the way these rosters are built, knowing what we have in terms of the data, the projections, there is a large gap between these two teams. But where is Oregon's roster right now? Let's look, sort of spotlight the Ducks. They are, without a doubt, as we know, by a 28.5-point spread, very far away from Oklahoma State. But where is Oregon in relation to the other top teams? Because if we are to overreact to the way that Dante Moore played, the way that some of those young players looked, the depth that was on display as they continued to be efficient deep into the game, and even comments from Montana State's coach after the game at just really being impressed by what he saw on the other sideline. Where is Oregon's roster in your estimation in terms of being ready to go make a run at a national championship?
Chip, I would say it's potentially right there, but I need to see more. Specifically here on the offensive side of the ball. Nice debut for Dante Moore. They used a variety of running backs. Mekhi Hughes, the transfer from Tulane, barely played. Decorian Moore, true freshman receiver, who's probably going to be the best true freshman receiver in the country. He was a 5-star for us at 24/7 Sports and the best overall receiver in the class, in my opinion. But what are receivers 2 and 3 going to look like when they play some teams with real athletes? How's this offensive line going to hold up against a better pass rush than what Montana State offered? I think there's still a lot of questions about Oregon, but also a lot of promise. That they're a team we'll be watching a lot early in the season for us to be able to figure out, okay, just how good can these guys be this year? From a program and talent acquisitions, building standpoint, there's no doubt that Oregon is built to last. It's just, are they built, to finish like in the last week of the season this year? I think that's still TBD.
Tom, when you've got the asterisk of sorts when in our analysis of trying to understand what we can and cannot take away. Montana State 15-1 last year, national runner-up at the FCS level, but at the FCS level, what were some of your takeaways from what you saw from the Ducks?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to the Mike Gundy, Dan Lanning thing real quick.
Yeah.
Where was Mike? Why wasn't Mike Gundy complaining about money in college football while T. Boone Pickens was still alive and he was spending every single offseason flirting with open jobs to get a raise at Oklahoma State? Why didn't the money matter then? Why is it such a big deal now, Mike? That's one thing I'm wondering. As for what to take away from Oregon's win against Montana State, like you mentioned, Montana State's a good FCS program, and we have seen FCS programs give teams trouble. Last year, in the season opener, Idaho gave Oregon trouble. It was a 24-14 game. So to see them come out and play as clean as they did, considering all the new pieces that they have at key spots, I think it's an encouraging sign. Whether or not we could take a whole lot away from it, I don't know if we should. Like, this is a team that came out, they ran the ball 60% of the time in the game, and we wondered this offseason if the change in Oregon's offense with the new quarterback would be we see them lean into the run game a bit more, especially after the Evan Stewart injury. So it looked like that in this game, but that could be far more related to the game script than anything else. The most interesting thing of the game for me came from something Bud just mentioned, the fact that Mekhi Hughes was one of the top transfers in the offseason. He comes from Tulane. We thought he was going to have a big season for Oregon, and he barely played in this one. He did not start. Noah Whittington got the first snap of the game, had a nice big run. Mekhi Hughes finished with one rush, one catch, and really nothing else. And they've been kind of mum about the reasoning behind it. So I'm assuming it's a disciplinary issue, and I'm wondering, will we see him a lot more in this week's game against Oklahoma State? Because he is a very talented player, and I think that when you look at how the run game looked overall, you add him to it this week, this is an Oregon offense that might be pretty explosive on the ground.
Danny, when you've got Dante Moore, go ahead.
I was going to follow up and say I would imagine you'll see a lot more Mekhi Hughes. Might be in one of those situations where you're able to take a disciplinary approach, send a message to him, whatever it was that he wasn't playing. You're able to send a message, get that wake-up call. And I thought the Oregon Ducks were one of those teams where you just got an A. Like, it might have been the easier test, but you got an A on the test. And, I mean, Mateo Ungale delivered. We knew he was a special player. But Dante Moore, I think we have to remember, he's not your average kind of first-year starter because he didn't play last year. He did play as a true freshman at UCLA, and I really was optimistic about what this year could bring because sometimes you need a year, a redshirt, reset type of year. And for him to be able to watch Dillon Gabriel, I think had to have been invaluable for him to watch somebody who had played more college football than anybody else. Not only the way he handles the media, leadership, play calling, in-game, but just the totality of it, preparation, off the field, little things that you're supposed to do as a starting quarterback, the face of your franchise. I think that could have proved really valuable for Dante Moore. And his stats, I know it's easier competition, but that was very, very efficient without many mistakes at all. I thought he really, really impressed.
Bo Nix had 2 years with Oregon, and we saw the real jump there in year 2. I know they had some coaching changes along the way, but just in terms of getting comfortable, understanding exactly what the goal is, what you're trying to do. Will Stein did great jobs with Bo Nix year 2. Dillon Gabriel, his 1 year there. Now Dante Moore leading that offense. Again, it is Oregon hosting Oklahoma State. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 local out in Eugene. You can watch Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, Jenny Dell on the call on CBS or stream it on Paramount Plus. Well, coming up on the other side, it is a statement game for the Big Ten. As Michigan goes on the road to take on Oklahoma, we go inside the matchups, tell you where this game will be decided, look at our 2 new quarterbacks, give you X factors and more. Next.